Hello everyone and welcome to the lecture on Elastic Beanstalk. So this lecture will contain all this contents. What is Elastic Beanstalk? Elastic Beanstalk deployment and management, Elastic Beanstalk concepts, web server environments, worker environments, web and worker environment interaction, and Elastic Beanstalk integration with other AWS services. So what is Elastic Beanstalk? 1. Elastic Beanstalk enables quick deployment and management of application in the AWS cloud without requiring extensive infrastructure knowledge. The service reduces the complexity of managing applications while still providing control and flexibility, making it easier for developers to focus on their applications. To deploy an application, users simply need to upload their application to Elastic Beanstalk, which then handles the details of capacity provisioning, load balancing, scaling, and application health monitoring. Elastic Beanstalk supports a wide range of popular programming languages and platforms, making it a versatile choice for many developers. When an application is deployed, Elastic Beanstalk automatically builds the selected platform version and provides the necessary AWS resources such as Amazon EC2 instances to run the application. Users can interact with Elastic Beanstalk through various interfaces, including the Elastic Beanstalk console, which is part of AWS console. So it's a service within AWS console, the AWS command line interface, CLI, or the Elastic Beanstalk specific high level CLI called EB. So that executable is EB. So basically, to summarize, Elastic Beanstalk is like a platform as a service where you upload code and the service will take care of provisioning or creating all the required AWS resources for you, like load balancer, EC2 instances, S3 for storage, or if any database is required, it will create all the underlying infrastructure for you. And it supports application language like Go, Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby, and .NET. Elastic Beanstalk deployment and management. So most deployment tasks such as changing the size of your Amazon EC2 instance fleet or monitoring your application can be performed directly from the Elastic Beanstalk web interface. To use Elastic Beanstalk, you create an application and upload an application version in the form of application source bundle. For example, in Java, this is a .war file. You also provide some information about the application. Elastic Beanstalk automatically launches an environment and creates the configuration. Configures the necessary AWS resources to run your code. After creating and deploying your application, information about the application, including metrics, events, and environment status, is available through the Elastic Beanstalk console, APIs, or CLI interfaces as well, including the AWS CLI or EB CLI. There is no additional charge for using Elastic Beanstalk. You only pay for the underlying AWS resources that your application outcomes. So basically, to summarize, you just create an application, upload, it will launch the environment, you manage the environment. So whenever there is a need to update the version with your new application version code, you upload the new application version and it will deploy the new version and manage the environment. So Elastic Beanstalk concepts. So first is application. An Elastic Beanstalk application is a logical collection of Elastic Beanstalk components, including environments, versions, and environment configurations. In Elastic Beanstalk, an application is conceptually similar to a folder. Application version. In Elastic Beanstalk, an application version refers to a specific labeled interaction of deployable code for a web application. An application version points to an Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon S3 object that contains the deployable code, such as a Java war file. An application version is part of an application. Applications can have many versions and each application version is unique. In a running environment, you can deploy an application version you already uploaded to the application, or you can upload and immediately deploy a new application version. You might upload multiple application versions to test differences between one version of your web application and another. 3. Environment. An environment is a collection of AWS resources running an application version. each environment runs only one application version at a time. However, you can run same application version or different application versions in many environments simultaneously. When you create an environment, Elastic Beanstalk provisions the resources needed to run the application version you specified. Then environment tier. So when you launch an Elastic Beanstalk environment, you first choose an environment tier. The environment tier designates the type of application that the environment runs and determines what resources Elastic Beanstalk provisions to support it. An application that serves HTTP request runs in a web server environment tier. A backend environment that pulls tasks from Amazon Simple Queue Service (SQS) queue runs in a worker environment tier. Okay, continuing with Elastic Beanstalk concepts. Fifth, environment configuration. An environment configuration identifies a collection of parameters and settings that define how an environment and its associated resources behave. When you update an environment's configuration settings, Elastic Beanstalk automatically applies the changes to existing resources or deletes and deploys new resources depending on the type of change. Sixth is saved configuration. A saved configuration is a template that you can use as a starting point for creating unique environment configurations. You can create and modify saved configurations and apply them to environments using the Elastic Beanstalk console, EB-CLI, AWS CLI, or the API. The API and AWS CLI refer to saved configurations as configuration templates. And lastly, platform. A platform is a combination of an operating system, programming language runtime, web server, application server, and Elastic Beanstalk components. You design and target your web application to a platform. Elastic Beanstalk provides a variety of platforms on which you can build your applications. Okay, this is the web server environments. So one, when you create an environment, Elastic Beanstalk provisions the resources required to run your application. Second, AWS resources created for an environment include one, Elastic Load Balancer, an auto scaling group, and one or more Elastic Compute Cloud EC2 instances. Every environment has a CNAME URL, canonical name that points to a load balancer. The environment has a URL such as, for example, myapp.uswest2. So this includes the region and elasticbeanstalk.com, and myapp is the name which you give. This URL is aliased in Amazon Route 53 to an Elastic Load Balancer URL. So something like in Amazon Route 53 there will be a record created which will be an alias record, and it can have some format like abcdef something uswest2.elb.amazonaws.com using a CNAME record. So the load balancer sits in front of Amazon EC2 instances which are part of an auto scaling group. The Amazon EC2 auto scaling automatically starts additional Amazon EC2 instances to accommodate increasing load on your application. If the load on your application decreases, Amazon EC2 auto scaling stops instances but always leaves at least one instance running. The software stack running on Amazon EC2 instances is dependent on the container type. The container type defines the infrastructure topology and software stack to be used for that environment. So this is web server environments, wherein it's like customer facing or web server like web facing. And then you have worker environments, which we can call as probably as backend also, backend environments. So AWS resources for a worker environment tier include an auto scaling group, one or more Amazon EC2 instance, and an IAM role. For the worker environment tier, Elastic Beanstalk also creates and provisions an Amazon SQS queue. If you don't already have one, so it will provision an SQS queue. So when you launch a worker environment, Elastic Beanstalk installs the necessary support files for your programming language of choice and a daemon on each EC2 instance in the auto scaling group. So this daemon will be part of on each EC2 instance there will be a daemon running. The daemon reads messages from Amazon SQS queue. So in the worker environment, SQS queue will have some messages which will be read by or pulled in by the daemon which is running on the EC2 instance. The daemon sends data from each message that it reads to the web application running in the worker environment for processing. Okay, one last point is, if you have multiple instances in your worker environment, each instance has its own daemon, but they all read from the same SQS queue. So I'll become more clear when I show you the diagram with both worker as well as the web server environment. So this is so this left side we have the worker environment, web server environment, and it's running in an auto scaling group, and you have EC2 instance. So this will go, there will be minimum one, and it may go up depending on the load, and it is front ended by a Elastic Load Balancer, and Amazon Route 53 will have an entry for this ELB which is will be pointing to the auto scaling group, and it will go up and down, scale up or down based on the load. And it is, this ELB is internet facing, so traffic comes from here, it goes here, EC2 instances goes up and down depending on the traffic. Then this will send an SQS message, it will go to a queue, and this queue has a purpose for the worker environment, and this gets sent to the EC2 instance. Let's say there only one is there, but at least one will be there, one or more, which will be part of auto scaling group. And this daemon which is running, they will be passing messages from the web server to the backend tier. And this this auto scaling group is being watched by CloudWatch, and this will in turn will trigger auto scaling whether there is a need to increase the number of EC2 instances or not. But on each EC2 instance there will be same SQS daemon which will be again reading from the same queue. There will be only one queue, but multiple messages can be there. So this is how the web server environment will actually interact with the backend environment tier. And Elastic Beanstalk integration with other AWS services. So you have IAM, which manages permissions for Elastic Beanstalk. So it's tightly integrated with identity and access management. Then it integrates directly with CloudFront for serving static content, then or serving content at the edge location. Then it stores application files in Amazon S3, and you can mount file systems from Amazon Elastic File System EFS. You can store data in Amazon DynamoDB. You can cache data using Amazon Elastic Cache. You can use Amazon Relational Database Service RDS. Then you can run within a VPC, so it can run within a VPC. You track resources using AWS config, basically to see the configuration data changes. Then you log API calls to CloudTrail. For CloudWatch is used both, can be used for metrics, event metrics, like measuring your performance, as well as sending logs to CloudWatch. And you trigger action based on events, and then for that you can use Amazon Event Bridge. And that's all. Thanks for watching.